Hey,
How are you, man?
how you doing, buddy? No, I don't like this.
Funny, I just that shirt that shirt was in rotation a couple of weeks ago, and now it's ready to go for a washing.
Yes, the watch cat shirt.
So forgive me. Today we're going to go just the two of us, unfortunately.
Again.
And
Come on, Rick. You know that this is how you like it. Gives you more screen time.
No,
I mean, we like Jack, but come on, deep down.
we want to dominate the.
Yeah. If you could, you probably would get rid of me just so it's just you.
Just me, as I was saying, as I astutely observed.
Right. Hey, I don't know if you caught it, but I promoted your show on Facebook.
Oh, did you?
So,
haven't gone. I'm trying to stay away from Facebook. I'll be honest with you, but I'll go on there. It's like I go on there. I try and go on there like once a week. I try not to go on there more than once a week because it's a place where people, people you get involved in. Before long, you're going, "What the fuck am I doing?"
You go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm the same way. I only go on there.
Welcome to This is a Zoom Breakdown with I'm Rick Almada. I have Gregory J Bradley with me. And we're today, season 2, episode 1, Fargo, Waiting for Dutch. Title, of course, refers to Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, and with Dutch being referring to Ronald Reagan, Waiting for Ronald Reagan. And I'll take a quick moment. Waiting for Godot was from existential theater of the absurd is what it was referred to. Beckett called Godot tragic comedy, which fits, I think, Fargo well and fits this season and this episode very well. Just a quick moment. The theater of the absurd, dramatic works of certain European and American dramatists of the 1950s and early 60s who agreed with the existentialist philosopher Albert Camus that the human situation is essentially absurd, devoid of purpose. He's an optimist.
That sounds like 2020.
They shared a pessimistic vision of humanity, struggling vainly to find a purpose and to control its fate. Humankind in this view, is left feeling hopeless, bewildered, and anxious.
I'm sorry, that's a Monday for me. That's a Monday.
Control is fate, very American. First, this is amazing what can be communicated in an opening sequence. Not just information, but just a vibe and energy. And, with the music, I remember these are 1979 music. I remembered all this, like the Fleetwood Mac's music and Child of the Sun. Those kind of tunes was just phenomenal. I found it interesting. We open up on a fictitious movie setting, the massacre of Sioux Falls, and this actor, an Indian actor, of course, standing there freezing, and finally he's waiting, and he's finally, what are we waiting for? And of course, the PA or director's assistant or PA comes and lets them know that they're waiting on Ronald Reagan. It's got they got to put a lot of arrows in him. That whole thing with Doll, just find out the way he talks to them. Interesting also that how they kind of like in this conversation, waiting, that they're in this conversation talking about this is the actual battlefield and telling him about how he must feel. And he goes, I'm from New Jersey. and he goes, oh, well, yeah, I'm Jewish. So, this is weird, awkward conversation movies. But this is, to me, it's the first example of the facade, a fictional movie that helps sell Reagan and the America that doesn't really exist. Then more waiting in a series of cuts, not estrogen and Vladimir, Dodd, Gerhardt, and Hansi also waiting. Hansi is not like the stereotype Indians in the Reagan movie. Same intro, only this is a true story. Everything else fades away, leaving true on its own, then before fading. And typed in, quite possibly typed, Chief, on the new electric typewriter that Clyde has been trying to sell. 1979 cuts out of the main events of the day. First is Jimmy Carter's infamous My Lai speech. And then also these cuts of crime and other things of the day. And so America is waiting as well for their savior. In Godot, there's a recurring exchange, something like, well, what if he comes? Then we're saved is the answer. And what if he doesn't come? We can hang ourselves. Waiting on Reagan, the savior. America's supposed to be the place of making your dreams come true through hard work and grit. But the American identity crisis is on. In exchange with his older brother and first in line, Rye says, who did arrive an hour late, is reminded that he is a Gerhardt. Rye responds, that's like telling Pluto, you're a planet too. And already this quest for more than what family can offer is displayed. Dodd finally lets him know where he stands. You're the comic and a piece of bubble gum. Times are different. In this exchange, Rye is so impressed with family hierarchy and his place in it that when Dodd tells him to have the money by tomorrow or else, he smirks and responds, or else what? A lot of waiting in this scene. Those cuts, it displays all these characters. Lou Salverson, the police officer, waiting on the effects of the chemotherapy. The Clyde waiting for a judge to lift the restrictions so the money spigot can go and he could make money off this new electric typewriter. And then the story takes all these characters. The only one wasn't waiting, who I found interesting in there, was Peggy, in my opinion. Just didn't seem, she didn't wait on anything. She put on the gas.
Yeah.
And then
That's
kept
so
going.
True. That's true.
She was an amazing character, and I want to know, I'll let you, wherever you want to start. I was thinking starting from the beginning, but I do find her to be a fascinating character. We don't see her till quite honestly, to that point. The villains are really not present, or the antagonists really don't really come into focus, quite honestly, till the end of the movie. They're
Right.
talked about, right?
Right.
So that's my intro to doing. Let me see if I have anything else. Anything else that's wise that I have to say. And in the end, while everyone is waiting in some form or another, the last thing we see, the Kansas City mob, where that the father Gerhardt has a stroke, where that there's interfamily struggle. Who is their heir?
It's beautiful. I mean, that's the thought you're talking about on how you did, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah. On my wife.
Beautiful. You did an excellent job.
That's it. Thank you. That's what I needed.
Did you notice though, in the very beginning with the fake, first of all, give them credit for using the MGM logo.
Oh yeah.
And having the lion war, in black and white. It was beautiful. That was perfect.
Yeah.
And then you go right into the fake Ronald Reagan movie. And did you notice that they still used the theme of Fargo? For it, but it was much more on a grand scale of that what would be in the 1950s. I'm assuming.
Yeah, if that was the song for the opening of.
Yeah.
Massacre.
And you've seen like the landscapes, and you've seen the bodies of all the. I'm assuming. Yeah. Now, let me ask you. I'm assuming because it's Ronald Reagan, and he's referred to as Dutch, that gives so much meaning to the title, "Waiting for Dutch."
Right.
So they're waiting for him. And so what year would you say that fictional movie takes place?
The fictional movie? I'm guessing that the fictional movie was shot in the 40s. or early 50s.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
No, just basically because when you, first of all, that was when Ronald Reagan was kind of at his prime, was in the 40 and 50 as an actor. But also, too, where you had the first AD talking to the actor playing the Indian, and the way he's dressed. I love that. And then the comparison to the footage of Carter, Jimmy Carter talking, giving the speech, everything that you said was exactly that. It really was. It really ties into, it's 1979, which is Reagan doesn't come into office until 1980. So obviously we're waiting for him again, but this time as a leader, as the president. So I thought that was fascinating. You're right. And then you get into your fictional story, where you see another Indian and Dodd Gerhardt waiting for his brother. I think it's played by right. So it's I just thought Fargo has these incredible beginnings and they're so layered that I don't think you get it the first time you watched it. I had to watch it a couple of times before I started getting the connections, because you're just laughing at the whole thing. I mean, even the dialogue between the Indian and the first AD, who mentions, he's like, look, when like you said, when the Indian guy said, the Native American said, hey, I'm from Jersey, I don't know what you're talking about as far as the massacre of Sioux Falls. And then he's like, well, I'm Jewish, so if I know a thing about turbulence or something, it was the word he used about massacres and stuff. Yeah. So it was like this common bond of not immigrants, but people who've been oppressed. I thought was very fascinating, and it was also very funny.
I'll get a cigarette.
And Rye is the catalyst of this episode, because again, it's something. There is a theme about Fargo, about guys, more or less on the lower ladder of the working class. He's not pulling his weight. The family's already, the Gerhardts are already struggling, but he's not pulling his weight. He's a part of the family, but he's not making his collections. Yeah. So they give him the alternative that you gotta do it. So it really stems from his and he's not bright. Rye's not a bright character. No.
He's a smart ass. He's just a smart ass.
Yeah.
And he's sort of entitled in the sense that he knows he's a Gerhardt. So there's a certain amount of shit that he could just get away with.
Well, like the scene where he talks to Clive, the one that invented the electric typewriter. There's a guy that Clive's talking to, and if he doesn't get the respect, I mean, he pulls out a gun and literally forces him out of the shop. So right off the bat, you get a sense of an entitled prick, So of course, if he's the one he thinks he's going to persuade the judge, because he's telling the judge that I could lift the sanction of the money that would go to Clyde. And everything that happens in the Waffle House is hilarious. Yeah. It's very funny into that. Well, I mean, because I'm curious about you. What was your thoughts about how everything escalated in that scene?
Well, this kind of waiting and searching, and he's he wants to make in essence he wants to make his bones. He wants something for him, right? And and his interaction with her, it's like, this is the one person. Everybody else, he's been able to just like be a smart ass, and even his brother, who threatens to give him some, but he's his brother. It's like it's like, that's why he was right when he said, he goes, or else what? It was such a fucking punk ass thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, which is true. You're right. The threat can only go so far. I mean, I think the brother makes a comment. He was like, well, I'll clean your clock, sort of to speak. But I mean, the worst the brother could do is just beat the hell out of him, and that's about it. So, and I think what's fascinating too is, well, first of all, it also shows again a character that is under duress trying to make money, trying to find shortcuts, that sees himself more than what other people see him. And because he feels it's obvious from that first opening, Rye is who's played by Rye? Is it Kieran Culkin, right?
Culkin is. I was going to say, is he the brother of?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Of the Home Alone guy.
He did a really good job. Yeah.
No, he was great. He was great. So the idea that even when he drives up to the restaurant and he snort cocaine, there's never a good sign. Where he's going to confront the judge. And I love the scene between him and the waitress, because every time she and they're always so nice. You notice the people in Fargo are extremely nice people. He thinks of himself as a wise ass, but he can do that to his brother, but he can't do that to the judge, because the moment that he starts to pull that, she just comes back. She just cuts his legs off underneath him, and he's floundering because she tells a story. It was an anecdote
about Job.
Oh yes, yeah. She told it wasn't an anecdote. It was a scripture about Job, and if Job, after all the devil's done to him, didn't curse God out, or didn't change him to curse God, what makes you think you can do that to me? That's what she tells him. And then she pulls out a big why she would have this on, but a can of bug spray. I got a prop, see?
That's very good. She pulled out.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Raid, but it was a big can of bug spray.
Yeah, it was a big can of bug spray. Yeah. And man, when she sprayed him right in the eyes, I was like, damn, that was funny. But just like characters like him, he overreacts.
Yeah.
And or he just gets pissed off and he shoots her and starts shooting everybody. Yeah. And so the show has this incredible way of being funny and then being extraordinarily violent, right. but it's so contained that you don't know how it escalates, and you think that's going to be it. You think maybe the scene now is him trying to get away. You know, he makes it look like it's a robbery. He kills the judge, he kills the cook, he kills the waitress. As a matter of fact, he steals money out of the register to make it look like it was a robbery. But then the waitress is still alive and she's walking out of the shop, so he has to shoot, and he doesn't have any bullets. So again, there's a comic effect to even what he's doing, because he's got to reload to shoot the waitress, who's already like 20 feet ahead of him, and then he shoots her in the head and kills her. And right when you think, okay, it can't get any worse, what does he see? What do the audience see in the first 10 minutes? A freaking UFO.
I know. Yeah. What did you think about? What did you think about that UFO when that?
I thought that totally fit with the world of Fargo. Yeah. It made absolutely no sense at the time.
Right.
And when that just appeared, I just remember laughing and kind of going, okay, yeah. But then again, even that wasn't enough, because what happens? He's in the middle of the road, he sees the UFO, and then the moment the UFO takes off, bam, he gets hit by a car. His shoe even flies up to I think it's on one of the trees or something like that.
Yeah.
Which also introduced another character, introduced Peggy, who you were talking about, who's in the car. And instead of stopping, this chick just drives all the way home with him embedded in the window. And,
I don't know. If you ever do something, if you've ever done anything wrong, like you fucked up, and you just don't want to believe you just did that, and you try to play it off like it didn't happen, like you didn't really do that. Now that was that's taken it to another level. But she did that. That was because she just never stopped. It took it took her husband coming home and killing the guy to basically say, "Oh yeah, by the way, to come out."
I mean, but you're right. But let's stick on Peggy and her storyline, because really it ends a little bit. It's connected with Rye, and then because he gets hit, he's literally he's half in the car, sticking out of the window, and she drives home. But this is the thing that's interesting: is when we're introduced to Peggy, we don't see her behind the wheel of the car. We know that Rye gets hit, and then the scene cuts. Yeah. And then you're introduced to Peggy, and Peggy is in the kitchen, already cooking, watching. I'm not sure if she was watching television or listening to radio or something. I can't remember, but her husband comes home, and then all of a sudden they just have this basically a normal conversation, you know, about possibly having kids and all this other stuff. And then the moment you hear something in the garage, that's when she starts freaking out and even saying, well, if you want to just like make love, let's do it now. And the husband is just like, no, I'm going to check out the garage. And yeah, that's when Ed finds, he finds Rye. And like you said, Rye is still alive, but he's all battered up and bloodied, but he attacks Ed and there's a struggle. And then Ed is forced to, we assume, because again, I've only seen this episode, but I'm assuming he killed him when Ed stabs Rye. And then they have a long conversation about what to do with him.
Yeah, they do. I just found that like amazing.
Yeah.
Just how she just shifts to,
yes,
you know, now, okay, we just got to get past it. We just, it was kind of like, you know, how are we going to solve this thing? Like it can go away or somehow.
The big shattered window, and she says she hits a deer, you know, and then the husband's so trustworthy because he doesn't press her hard. He was just like, oh, well, are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah, you know, and there's blood on the car and stuff, but then he still hears movement on the other side of the garage. And one of the funniest line is as he walking towards the sun, he looks over at his wife and says, well, did you bring the deer with you? You know, I'm thinking he was going to see it. I love lines like that. And then, yeah, once he sees it was, we find out it's Rye. Then now we as the audience realize, oh, it was her, Peggy in the car. Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So I say all that to say, this show has a way to think you know where it's going. You know, at first it starts off as if Rye has got to earn for the family, so he's got to find a way to make money, and then it doesn't. And then you start thinking, oh, Rye ended up he ended up killing people, the three people and the judge, all in the restaurant. So now it's going to be about him trying to cover that up. Right. But then when he sees the UFO, you're like, well, I don't even know where we're going now. But he gets hit, and then he's basically killed at the end of the episode. So really, the story shifts now to Peggy, and it's really Peggy and Ed's story, and that's all in one episode. So let's talk about the Gerhardts, the hierarchy.
Yeah,
you know,
well, I thought was interesting in that family, that first family meeting, like the family meeting was waiting on Dodd, and he was late, or it looks like it, because he was waiting. Because they're sitting there waiting, and all that. There was this really neat family nuances going on, like, you know, he was waiting for his brother to stand up to move out of his chair, and then the old man said, you know, when you girls are done dancing.
Yeah, I think you had so Dodd's the oldest, and then Bear is the second, and then Rye is the youngest. Yeah, that was funny. The mom is, what's her name? What's her character's
Floyd.
name?
The character's name is Floyd. Yeah.
Floyd, okay. Yeah. So she's showing Otto, Gerhardt, the head of the household, the head of the mob, the books. So they've already been losing money. Basically, they're losing money, not just the fact that Rye is not bringing in his end, but they're also being squeezed by the Kansas City mob.
Yeah, someone's what I like in that little exchange was how Dodd kind of changed. You know, Dodd's like the boy trying to impress his father. All of a sudden, he goes, "I'm taking care of it." He goes, "It's not my fault. I'm taking care of it." And Bear has no problem giving all the details of who it is. Dodd's been trying to keep it on wraps because he wants to get it under control, but Bear, who has nothing to lose, make sure to sit there and say, "Down south from Kansas City," or whatever. Lets them know
the dynamics of the brothers, because obviously Dodd is always tormenting Rye, so even he tells his family, when they're saying who's not pulling in there, and he's the first to throw Rye under the bus because he's like, it's not us, that's Rye. And then he's like, okay. And then even the mom, Floyd, even she says, yeah, but even without his share, we're still losing a lot of money. And that's where Bear kind of puts Dodd under the bus. He stays in Kansas City. He says it's Kansas City mom. And then you realize, and that's when he went, oh, well, I'm handling that, you know. So you're right. I think there's a lot of nuance between the brothers, which is fun and funny. But then you get a sense of the father, because all of a sudden now he's just pissed off. And the idea that some outside mob is going to be coming in to Fargo and take over their business, and he's talking about how he would grind them up, and you know, and right when he says it, that's when he has a stroke.
Yeah, right in the middle of grinding the bones, he had a stroke. Yeah. Although I got to say, I was looking at it going, oh, so that's how it happens.
Yeah.
I'm never going to mention grinding.
Do this, but it was such a good metaphor to realize how weak this family really is, because him not even screaming, the fact he could still have a stroke, knowing that, well, wait a minute, so Dodd would be the next in line. And I'm not saying that Dodd isn't the smart one, but at the same time, you don't feel 100% confident if he couldn't even handle the Kansas City mob. And Bear, obviously, he's like the enforcer type. He doesn't come across as the brains. It seems like Floyd, their mother, might be the only one that can run that outfit.
Yeah.
And I mean, and again, that's not even looking at any of the episodes, because she's the only one smart enough to realize they're losing money on the books. And you get a sense that she's smarter than her children. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I think so far we can say that Rice is now out of the picture, because he's probably dead.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in a freezer.
He's in a freezer. He's in a freezer.
Well, I mean, again, we didn't. Yeah, it's funny, because going back to the relationship between Peggy and Ed about what are they going to do about the body, and Ed points out the same thing that I had. The same thought that crossed my mind. He was like, you brought him home, and then you went and cooked dinner, and we ate and talked and stuff like that, and then I came down and then I killed him. It was almost like, in his mind, he's like, what kind of woman would do that? How do you not just go to the police and stuff? And then, but she talks him out of it. She literally says, well, if you go to the police now, it was a hit and run. I'm more likely I'm going to go to jail, and probably you too. And you want to have a baby, right? We're not going to have a baby if we're in jail, you know? And we're just going to have to get past it, you know? And eventually he agrees. He agrees that all right, well, maybe the best thing to do is Dodd would technically, you know, I think Dodd would be the one that could run it. But I think his competitiveness, this male masculinity, again, that's another thing that runs through Fargo's season, always gets in the way. I think the competitiveness definitely gets in the way. But I get the sense when he was exposed of not handling the Kansas City, it was almost like you said, he was trying to please his father. You know, he's late to the meeting, and then when it came to who's not earning, well, that's right, we earn. You know, I love the emphasis that he puts on that, we earn. You know, we made our collections, but then he shrinks down the moment Barry just says, well, the reason we're really losing money is because another mob is coming in and taking over some of our territories. I'm working on it. So
that's true.
There,
that's true.
And like you said, he gets even a little lip from Rye, you know, about the whole, you know, if Pluto tells Jupiter, like that's like saying Pluto to Jupiter, you're a planet too. It's almost like, it's like the only comeback that Dodd has is just putting his brother in a headlock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to watch the rest of the episodes, because that family is such a kind of crazy dysfunctional mob family.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, they are. Well, while we're there, now in the beginning, I'm pretty sure that in the beginning they showed this. One of the cuts they showed on there was the guy who played Everybody Loves Raymond, the brother.
Yeah, Brad Garrett.
Brad Garrett, And I don't know the actor's name, but the black guy, he had the brother. So they had kind of a two-shot of them.
Yeah,
what was your impression of those two guys? Or what did you think when you saw those two?
Well, you're right. That comes at the very end, and I always get the character. I know the brother plays as Mike, but I always get his. I have trouble remembering his name.
Yeah, Mike Milligan.
Yeah, but he's only in there for a half a second.
Right.
You blink, you miss him. But he was framed in such a way because when Brad Garrett's character is talking, he's in shadow, and there's a moment where he turns away from the screen, and you see, okay, you get a sense this guy is going to be he's going to be one of the antagonists on getting this family. Yeah. I kind of like how he went through the steps on how they're dismantling the Gerhardt's empire, and he even talks about the brothers, and it's like, and they know about the stroke, so they know that their father had a stroke, so they know about that. They know that there's the next in line, but right now there's no leader. And again, he said something again. I thought he said something that Fargo has done a couple of times. Is with Floyd, he made a comment that, well, then there's his wife Floyd, but then again, she's a woman. Right. They have this tendency, the show does a really great job of just having characters dismiss another character because of their sex, because that they're a woman. Yeah. That happened in season one, and it happens in season 3. Of course,
and these Fargo's really good. All their stuff, and I think that's all crime things are. In essence, stories are either good versus evil. So we get introduced to Lou Silverson, a younger version of Lou Silverson.
I just realized, so he's played by Patrick Wilson, but I realized that Keith Carradine played him in season 1, and he was Molly's dad, who owned the little shop, the little restaurant shop. Yeah. I didn't realize that because he mentions in episode 1 that he's seen some days, Yeah. And now we're actually getting an opportunity to see, which I thought was great. I thought, what a nice little tie-in to see Molly's dad, actually, which makes you wonder that I guess that little girl that he's with is Molly. Yeah. It is good versus evil. It is these really kind of despicable characters that are there to take, and kill and do whatever they need to do. But their protagonist is usually a cop, and it's usually someone that has a really strong moral compass. Someone that's just, and that they don't even consider themselves heroes. They're just doing their job, and they do it very well, and they're very smart at their job.
I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, I even like the scene when Molly's dad, it's Lou, right?
Lou Silverson.
Yeah, so when Lou shows up to the restaurant, I'm always fascinated and then he meets up, I guess, with his father-in-law, played by Ted Danson.
Yes.
And it's kind of, I love the conversation that they have as they're figuring out things that are happening there. It always feels grounded. It always feels real. They don't ever seem to go out for comic effect, but it just seems as if, if you're a cop, you see this stuff all the time. It doesn't kind of get to you anymore, and you probably wouldn't be talking about other stuff. I mean, he invited his dad to dinner, his father-in-law to dinner and stuff, and because she burned the casserole, he said, "I'll bring my suit of armor." Yeah. So I mean, it's
when he goes over and he sees the cook has been shot, and he goes, he goes, he held the record, he held the record, still stands, talks about the touchdown. Like, shit.
It was like 31 in the season, touchdowns.
Season, still stands.
But again, I think that's there's a certain essence of small town. Yeah. And they know everybody. Everybody seems to know everybody. Yeah. And there's something about this town that these extraordinary things happen. I think the trick is that they don't happen to the same person. So whoever, every season, it happens to one person usually, and you get through it. And if you get through it, your life is probably, if you're not going to jail or you're not dead, your life is going to go back to being normal in that small town. I didn't realize it had so many murders going on in Fargo.
So many murders going on in Fargo. Because every one of these things has some sort of philosophical titles. I've never gotten so into titles as I am in this one.
Yeah. Every title is its own story.
Yeah.
I would never think you could be so successful on doing a series off of Fargo, because when I saw the movie Fargo, I like the movie, but it's such a quiet crime drama, you know? It was like an interesting, based on a true story, true life moment.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if you could sustain that for series. It definitely has a certain noir feel to it, but it's also very true crime to it. It's also a black comedy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just do such an incredible job. Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, the Kansas City, I love that they wait to the end, the Kansas City mob, just like you said, they know all this shit about them.
Yeah.
They know that there's an opportunity, you know, research says that there's an opportunity of the family struggle and blah, blah, blah. And he says, approved.
Yeah. And that's the end.
And that's the end.
Yeah. Which was interesting too, because I thought when they put Rye, when Peggy and Ed put Rye into the freezer, they closed up the door, and we're seeing it from the camera perspective of the door closing. It goes to black. I thought that was the end, but instead it faded into another black, and then lights come on and we see the film, and that's when they introduced the Kansas City mob. And I just thought, how bold are you to not even introduce your bad guys until the end of the episode?
Yeah.
And then they're introducing these characters that we already know something about, because they were already introduced. 40 minutes we've been spending time with these characters. So we kind of identify with the mob that, you're right, these guys are right for the picking, you know? And I just thought it was an interesting way of showing the mob at the end of an episode instead of maybe at the beginning and then going into the characters.
And interestingly enough, the only one you really see is Brad Garrett.
Brad Garrett, yeah.
He's the one you really see. The other ones you kind of see in shadows.
They're shadows,
Even Mike Milligan, you kind of just see for a second, you know.
For a second.
And then the I guess the brains
of
the boss mind is completely blinded by light. You just don't see him.
And he's at the head of the table.
Yeah.
And you're right. What do we do if they won't cooperate or whatever? And then Brad Garrett says we liquidate, and then that's when he goes, approve. So I thought it was great. And also I thought that last scene did is introduce new characters, but for me, I found myself having empathy now for the Gerhardts family, because I realized that, oh shit, they're in a lot of trouble. They better find a way to get their act together. And I thought that was interesting. Yeah. That they ended that episode, kind of make me feeling bad for that family.
Yeah. All right, sir. I'm going to cut it off here. Anything else I don't know.
She thinks this guy's dead, but instead of hiding the body or freaking out, she goes to the kitchen. She cooks dinner, and she waits for her husband to come home, which we cut, because I think at that moment you cut to, we see her husband, who works at the butcher shop, and he's just like, he's kind of like the nicest guy. He just kind of, he gets free chops. I don't know why I like that. That's like one of my favorite scenes. And again, it kind of, what I really like about Fargo